Okay, so let's try to finish up Gardumin because, like I said, it's very confusing. I want to be done, at least have a basic understanding of it. So the Rambam. The Rambam, as we noted, is very complicated because in halacha Dalet and halacha Chet seems to be saying different things. Right? In halacha, what's the difference? In which halacha does he say what, Gavi?
In Dalet he says Gardumin, and in Chet he says Kadei.
Right, so it's not really clear what's going on. So there are many different explanations to explain the Rambam. So let's look. Let's just lay out the problem against the Mishnah, and then we'll try to summarize the whole sugya, and then move on to the next sugya. So the Kesef Mishnah writes: "V'yesh l'tmo alav v'masher kazav v'chenim oseh lavan v'tchel v'nisak alavan masher v'niftigu kol chutei alavan legamrei v'nishtayer me'im klum me'achar shenishar atchelet kasher." Right, in halacha daled, it sounds like even if it's not kedei aniva, as long as the tchelet is there, if the lavan rips, it's still kasher, and it sounds like it's kasher even if it goes beyond kedei aniva. V'im kein heich katav kan shem nifsak achut meikaro afilu chut echad psula v'od demazhav. Right? How could he write here that if one rips it's possible, it doesn't go kedei aniva? But demazhav bazak Rebbe dalibei amrinan the garden lavan v'kait tchelet kasher mazar ban lo sabri hachi. The second issue is, as we already noted from the Rash, why is he passing this halacha at all when it sounds like this halacha is only according to Rebbe? Because of Rebbe, once you're passing Gardumin, maybe you should pass like Rebbe, right, etc. So this is his problems, right? Is why doesn't one place does he say? Right, right? In one place, the halacha dalet at least, he sounds like it doesn't matter if kedei aniva is left or not. How does that make sense? Does the Gemara say kedei aniva? Right? The Rambam is very complicated. So the Kesef Mishnah gives three explanations of the Rambam. Okay. First explanation: V'yesh lomar Shrabinu pasar kerabanan ukabashta demasnisan. Diksani atchilas enu ma'akev es halafan. Shem ein lo elamin echad ozo because of shem ein lo tchilas osa lavan levado. U'mela masha lavan enu ma'akev et tchilas. Kol shekinu sheri ikra mitzvah tchilas regarding lavan kai regard tchilas regarding tchilas regard lavan pasar de kasher mizur le avakav de ukmei mazin la libde Rebbe idmar lekulei amatini hachi. So first point is he says maybe he assumes like the Chachamim. So why does he think Gardumin is halacha even according to Rebbe? So this is something that Gavi had said 2 days ago, which is, wait a second, if you hold tchelet ma'akev alavan, so then it's a chiddush. We hold tchelet in ma'akev alavan. At some level, he might say, of course, right? If I don't even need it at all, right? Tchelet in ma'akev alavan, then if it rips, so bichlal, right? That might be more makel. Maybe that's why he assumes that we paskin that way. Okay, that's point one. Uleinian shir ha-gardumin. So he says, but okay, that's the easy point. But how do you get to the hard point, which is what does the Rambam think Gardumin means? So he says, Mash b'zhov rabbein nafilu nishar lamin echad v'amin shenivsa kulo legamrei kasher. Right? In one place, the Rambam makes it sound like if the entire color rips, so it's kasher. Because that's what it sounds like. When it says it rips, it sounds like it ripped off totally. So its first suggestion is, it depends. If all four strings fall off, so then what do you need? Kedei aniva, because otherwise you have nothing. If only one color falls off, then
you can have Gardumin.
Then you can have even less than aniva, which for him, Gardumin and aniva are different. Right, that is the first explanation of the Kesef Mishnah, and you see the summary that we have here. Right, from the Kesef Mishnah in the English, right? That's what it is, right? That if all four strings are cut off, then you need kedei aniva. If only one color is, so then you can even go to Gardumin.
Does
Okay?
this first two opinions hold that if the tchelet mostly can't be touched, otherwise you make it pasul? When reading the first two things, it's trying to interpret the Rambam. It asks, it brings up the idea of lavan. Yeah, you could have kedei nivav, it's cut or partially cut, but when things mess with the tchelet, if the tchelet is even a little bit, even before.
Well, that's because for him, remember, there's only one of 8. So if it disappears, you're already dealing with the more machmer halacha, right? Because
one of 8 of the.
That's in general what he thinks. Okay, that's possibility 1 of the Kesef Mishnah. Possibility 2 of the Kesef Mishnah is V'yesh lefar min achar Rabbeinu far shadik marav yigardum lavan gait chil yigardum chil gait lavan kasher hainu minishar mehem gidani v'adavka. Possibility 2 is that you just have to reread the Rambam. When it sounds like it means it was ripped all the way, it doesn't mean that. It means kidani va, and therefore, according to the Shita, what would you hold?
That you always say kidani va.
Right. You always did Anivan. That's just that you just have to read one in light of the other. No, Yosef's right in the first one. That the reason that the talis is love, right, when all the white are cut, he thinks it's kosher because of the tchelet, right? But that's because it's one color or the other. That's what he's saying. Okay.
How do you read Vinit Ma'ed Ad HaKnaf as being
correct? It's a very hard read. You're right. I was listening to a shir by someone. He just said, I just don't buy this at all as a possibility. Right? I'm I think this is a near impossible read in the Kesef Mishnah. Conceptually, it's not hard. As a read in the Rambam, it's very, very, very difficult. Right? That's the second possibility of Kesef Mishnah. The third possibility of Kesef Mishnah, and this is the most involved, is the Yesh Lafarish Ben Inacher, the Shlosha Dinim Heim. Maybe there are 3 different levels. Ha'echad kishenifsik menechad levad. Filu nishtar pachim megdaniva kosher. Shem achar shem menasheni kayim kulo. B'chol shu mishtar min zesagi. Right. Possibility 1 is if one color is cut off, so then the second color can even have less than kedaniva.
If one color is cut off, then the other color can only have up to kedaniva. Meaning, if only one color is ripped, that color that is ripped can be ripped past kedaniva. Okay, fine.
Did I make that clear? Right? If only one color is ripped and the other one's completely intact, then the one that's ripped can be ripped even beyond kedaniva.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Is that clear?
Well, it's already being ripped. Can you rip?
Right. If only one color is ripped, then the one which is ripped can be ripped beyond kedaniva. Is that clear? Is that clear? Okay, good. Right? That's level 1. Second case is if all of them are ripped, so then you need kedaniva. Adira shlishi is im nifsak hachut meikaro afilu echad psula. Is that if it's cut off, so when all are partially cut off, kedaniva. When one string is totally cut off, totally like gone, then pasul. Right? If the lavan string is only partial cut off but don't have kedaniva, it's kosher as long as the tchelet is intact. Right? Those are the 3. Okay, those are the 3 shittot. Okay. So now we've seen, I think, all the shittot. Now let's just try to conceptually summarize everything again. Okay? So let's remember, we've seen basically 5 main shittos, right? Or 3 versions of the Rambam and then the Ri and Rabbeinu Tam, or the Rosh Rabbeinu Tam, however. Okay? I'm going to basically follow the Rav's lavdus here. Okay? The Ri, let's try this one more time. Okay, we're going to summarize everything. What did the Ri hold? The Rosh, what did he hold? The Gardumin is only a halacha according to? Rabbi. Why only according to? And according to Chamim, if a string is ripped beyond kedaniva, it's pasul, right? Why? So why does the Rosh hold this?
Because they can't save each other.
Correct. Right? So the Ri holds as follows. Right? If you remember that halacha. Is that the halacha of Gardumin is that one color can save the other color. According to the Rush, we'll just call it the Rush, right? That does not apply according to the Chachamim. Why doesn't it apply according to the Chachamim? Because since the Chachamim called Tchelet ein ma'akev et alav, and lavan ein ma'akev et Tchelet, so to use the lamdas we've seen before, that means that fundamentally, what does he think? That tzitzis is defined as 4 to 8 strings, right? 4 to 8 strings. You always need strings according to the Chachamim, and therefore, according to the Chachamim, can you ever have Gardumin, meaning something which is ripped beyond Kedei Aniva? No, because if the halacha is you need strings, then the minimum amount that can be left over for a string to be called a string is Kedei Aniva. Right? That's how the Rush understands it. According to the according to Rebbe, according to the Rush, so why is it that you're allowed to rip it even beyond Kedei Aniva?
Because they are ma'akev.
Because since Lavan and Tchelet are ma'akev zeh and are integrated. And presumably he holds, the way the Rav understands it, therefore, you don't view it as 8 strings. You view it as blue and white. Mm-hmm. So the halacha is, even if a string is ripped beyond Kedei Aniva, so maybe it's not a string, but it's an existing color, right? And the other color can save it, right? Meaning it's about colors. And the halacha is that once they're integrated, a color can save the other. And that's why the Rosh holds that Gardumin, meaning beyond Kedei Aniva, is only true according to the Chachamim.
So we don't say anything that if the tchelet is before is after Kedei Aniva, that the white can suffice for it.
So yeah.
We had one example where if the lavan is cut beyond Kedei Aniva, haya, you can rely on so long as
this is the Rush, right? Who thinks that Gardumin is not a halacha. Right, I mean, the halacha of Gardumin, meaning beyond Kedei Aniva potentially, is only according to Rebbe. We don't pass only Rebbe. Right, that's the Rush. Okay, 1 second. Rabbeinu Tam held that first of all it's only on 2 strings, right? Meaning you need one whole color to be intact. And then once you have one whole color is intact, so the other one can be ripped. In the Rush, it sounds like Kedei Aniva. It's not completely clear in every tradition of Rabbeinu Tam that he needs it to be Kedei Aniva or not. Now, why does Rabbeinu Tam hold that? Right, so the Rush is pretty clear. So the way the Rav understands it as follows, right? If Rabbeinu Tam in fact agrees with the way the Rush understands it, which is that if one color is ripped, the other one is kosher as long as it's Kedei Aniva, right? So he thinks as follows: that Rabbeinu Tam holds 2 halachot. One is that you need string, and therefore you can never have a string which is beyond Kedei Aniva. Right, that's the Rav wants to understand. That if the Rush is right within Rabbeinu Tam, namely that you can never have a string which is less than Kedei Aniva, again, that's Lishitaso, because he thinks you need minyan hachutim, right? You need 8 strings. Then why does he hold you need 2 complete strings?
2 complete strings meaning of the same color, or
meaning one color to be intact, right? So he says maybe you need 2 things. One is you need an Kedei Aniva because there's a din of strings. But in addition, what do you need? So he has this chiddush that maybe in addition to that, you need his atvus tzitzis atzmam. And he says maybe in addition to just the number of strings, that this halacha, you need to be wrapped in like strings, right? You can say that okay, if it sort of exists, it's sort of a string. But to really say I'm misatif in it, you can't say that unless you at least have some full strings. Alternatively, right, you could defend Rabbeinu Tam by saying, look, he needs a basic definition of string, but he also thinks that you need sort of an active definition, which means a color, but there's tzvedim, right? You need a complete color, right, so that there's something here, right? And you need remnants, so there's strings, right? The minimum number of strings is Kedei Aniva. But to have a definition of a color, right, if you don't have a full string, it's not there. right? So in order to really have both halacha, both string and like an active halacha, so you need the full string or something like that for a baby.
When we say full string, we're saying
full.
that side.
Like the yud base, you're right. The shear of yud base, right?
So that's implying the whole string itself, not when it's folded over. That
correct.
That
the string has to be yud base.
If you have a longer string and it gets
that's fine.
ripped,
so that's
still above.
That's fine. Right? You have a longer string, so that's fine. I think that's right. Okay, Rabbeinu Yerucham we saw was a bit different. He only allows one string to be pasul. Okay, we're not going to get too involved in him. Now, how would you understand the Rambam? So again, there are different ways of reading the Rambam, so it's hard to say that as a straight. But let's take the Shita of the Rambam. Yeah, he's in motion.
You busy? Anyone else available? You busy?
Start
the issue, that's why.
Right, represents.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
You are?
Jonathan Ziring.
But
We're just finishing up Gardumin. But Rabbi Ginsburg told me you're coming to bring the
okay.
You can interrupt him. He knows
a bunch of things if I can't carry it.
Okay, let's just pause, guys. Okay, so let's go back to the Rambam. How do you understand the Rambam? So again, simply understanding the Rambam is quite complicated, and we saw a different understanding. So again, to look at the Rambam, so again, conceptually, so if the Rambam just means that you always need Kidei Nivan, that's what he means, so then, again, it's very hard to read in the Rambam, but conceptually it's easy. Right? Meaning he needs strings, the minimum is Kidei Nivan, Kachazah. Right? That's conceptually easy. If you think that the Rambam holds that if an entire string, meaning one of string of tcheles and lavan, right, the folded over, right, meaning the first day of the Kesef Mishnah, that if all the strings are cut off, you need Kidei Niva, and if one string falls off, it's pasul, so that's before it was knotted, right? That's an entire string of tcheles and the lavan, right? That's that. Or the third one, right, partially cut off, you need Kidei Niva. One string is totally cut off, it's pasul. If they're only partially cut off, that Kidei Niva is kosher as long as the tchelet is intact. So how do you conceptualize this? So if you look at the Rav follows the interpretation of the Rambam based on Mishkanot Yaakov. Now again, I think the basic conceptual structure of Mishkanot Yaakov will work maybe in the third version of the Kesef Mishnah. He writes as follows. Al karch tzarich lefarish hachbava de lavan in makav et tchelet b'mishe asa kvar lavan letchelet v'nizik lavan legamrei raktzad nishar shircha lavan tchelet harei umekayim mitzvah tchelet. He says the case is as follows: if you make tzitzis, and then the white rips off, and the only thing that's left is a tiny little bit, right, less than Kidei Niva. So then he says, you're mekayim tchelet al mitzvah lavan v'adei lokim. And you should fix it, and otherwise you violate a mitzvah. He's saying the Rambam and the two halachos are talking about completely. But this is the sixth explanation of the Rambam, where we saw the So his explanation is the following. This is similar in a certain sense to the Karen Orah. In halacha daled, what he's saying is that if it rips in this way, so you're makayim one color and not the other. With sofa regulation didn't Gardumin was of stam masra kalachutim nisaf kurechad meikaro paso. So here's the halacha, right? If it's Kidei Niva, so based on Gardumin, you're actually yotzei. But if one of them rips all the way up, as long as the tchelet is intact, so it's not okay, but you were makayim the tchelet. He's not saying you're mekayim the whole mitzvah, right? Like the Karen Orah, right? You're mekayim only the tchelet. So in halacha Yudched, he's telling you how are you mekayim the whole mitzvah tzitzit. In halacha Dalet, he's telling you how much of the string do you need to be left over in order to be mekayim even a partial mitzvah, the tchelet or the lavan.
I was going to say you can't. I doubt you could wear this bediet.
Correct, but you couldn't. But you would have to fix it in the chanami.
I mean, yeah,
correct.
you wear bediet, but not the tchelet.
Bidyuk. So he says. how would you conceptualize that? And again, this is the Karen Oris Svara as well in a certain sense, and in a certain sense it's like the Rambam explanation in the Kesed Mishnah. There's similarities. So here's what he says. And okay? He says maybe what the Rambam is saying is like this. That in order for you to be Mekayim the mitzvah, you need Kedei Hanifah. Why do you need Kedei Hanifah? Because you need the string. But in what sense would having less than Kedei Hanifah still make it that the Tchelet is Yotzei? So the Rav argues, based on things that we've seen before, is that how does the Rambam conceptualize Tchelet? That it's what's its role? As a wrapper. And therefore he says, what is the Rambam saying? If you have less than Kedei Hanifah, but there's still a tiny little bit, so then the Tchelet is still kosher. Why? Because it has something to wrap. Because the Tchelet wrapped around a tiny little bit, other way around. Right? Because the Tchelet wrapped around a tiny little bit. And therefore the Rambam is saying, according to the Mishnah Yaakov, and again this works with the Karnara, is that to fulfill the mitzvah of tzitzis in its entirety, what do you need? Everything to have at least Kedei Hanifah, because then you have the strings. But if you're asking about the colors independently, so then how much lava needs to be around for the tchelet to be kasher? Anything. Even less than Kedei Hanifah, because you don't need a string. What do you need? Something for the blue to wrap around. And the second the blue wraps around it, so the blue is doing its function, and the mela, it's kasher. That doesn't mean that the whole tzitzis are kasher, but it means that the tchelet hasn't lost its identity. So that's how the Rav understands all the different shita, right? The Ri is all about string. Rabbeinu Tam, it's about string, and the way he formulates it, but you also need an active atifa, or, as I would say, you need at least one identifiable color, right? In a positive sense, not just a negative, right? Meaning it's not a string, but it is a full color. You have the Ri within Rebbe, which is that according to Rebbe, that Tchelet, Ma'akev, and Halafan, they're integrated. Right? And therefore, you don't need a number of strings. But again, this is only within Rebbe. And therefore, according to Rebbe, you can have actual Gardumin, right? Where the blue is machsher the white, or vice versa. And then you have the Rambam, the way the Mishnah Yaakov understands it, which is for the mitzvah, and again the Karen Orah like this, that for the mitzvah of tzitzis you need Kedei Hanifah. But in terms of the tchelet lavan independently, what you need is enough for it to be defined as a karech. Right? You need enough string for the blue to wrap around, and then it's going to be kasher. And so you see, like I said, Gardumin is a complicated sugya, but it should be clear, right, just from what we've seen, again, this is not everything, that Gardumin is integrally connected to the way we define tzitzis in general, right? A lot of the fundamental questions we've talked about in tzitzis, right? Are these strings in blue and white are superimposed, or the colors have independent identities, right? How do they work it out according to Rebbe, according to Chachamim, etc. All play towards these questions. Okay. Before we go on to Kesher Elyon, because that's the last thing within Gardumin also, right? Remember, part of the Gardumin Sugya is the Kesher Elyon, is where is it ripped from? But if you want, we can just do that tomorrow. I didn't give you the halacha, but do you want to take a few minutes just to read Shulchan Aruch and see how this plays out la halacha, which that we accept?
Like the Maaseh?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, fine. So let's just do that. You have it, right? It's in the back here. Okay, so you have the Oz V'Hadar, it's in the back. You have the... again, even not exhaustively, but just to look at Shulchan Aruch. So, where? So it is. If you have the Hadar at the back, you have a what's it called? You have like the Ein Mishpat HaShalim. Where is it exactly? It's in the other. It's after.
It's before Asubit's Panim. Right before that.
Right before that?
Yeah.
Here. Well, yeah, there's Ein Mishpat Shalom where they just copy it out. So, yeah, so it's Siman Yud Bet. So, let's just read it, right? So, Shulchan Aruch says, in Nifsuku, so you have it here. Siman Yud Bet. Got it?
Yeah.
So, Nifsuku call Chutei Knaf, Nishtayr Bahem K'dei Anivad, Kol HaChutim HaPsukim B'yachad, Kasher. Right, if all the strings are ripped, but there's left K'dei Anivad, is it kasher?
Yes.
Kasher. Okay. V'imlo nishar K'dei Anivad, Afil V'chut Echad Shenifsa Kulo, Pasol. And if a single string rips beyond K'dei Anivad, Pasol. Keivan Shekol Echad Kaful Lishnayim, Nifsiku Shnei Rashim. So therefore, how does this play out? So remember, when we say rip, we mean the whole string ripped, and every string is two sides. So what does this look like halacha? So since every string is doubled, if both sides rip, puzzle. Right? If one side rips, it doesn't, right? Because the string still exists. But if two sides rip,
Of the same string?
no. If two strings rip and you don't know which is which, so then
It's possible.
it's puzzle. Why? Because it could be the whole string is now ripped. But he says, "Ulufi masha anu noagim l'daktek be'etz atzias hatzitzis l'date siman ba'arba rashim." But that's not how we tie tzitzis, right? We separate them so you know which side is from which. Binyan shel olam ha'arba rashim he mitzad echad shel hakesher va'arba rashim mitzad acher mizgu shnei rashim mitzad echad kasher. And therefore, in our tzitzis, if two rip on the same side, is it kasher?
Yes.
Always. Why?
Because we know that it's not the same string.
Because we know it's not a whole string because we separate them. So if it's on the same side, we know
It's a string.
that there's no full string that's disappeared because it has the other half.
Yeah.
I don't
Right?
understand why the same string would be puzzle though, if they're on the same string.
If it's one,
Because if it's totally ripped on both sides, he means like a self, right? If one on one and you don't know, so it might be the whole string, right? And then you're down to 3 strings total.
Oh no, but if it's ripped, and if it's ripped up to
No, not up to here, right? But we haven't gotten here.
we're saying if
Like
it's ripped
mamish.
all the way up here.
Yeah, rip.
Oh.
That's why I said the last thing you have to do is Kesher Elio.
Okay.
Because remember, most Rishonim assume that the sugi of Gardumin is, so far we've been assuming like Rov Rishonim, that Gardumin is up to, right, Kesher Elio, or beyond, right? Not like Rashi, but because we're going to get to Rashi who thinks the Kesher Elio is in general is here. So we're going to get to Rashi. But that's the next sugi is Kesher Elio.
But if it's ripped up here though, then why does it matter if it's on both sides or just one side? If it's ripped up here, then it's puzzle even if it's just one, right?
No, because it's only ripped on one side, but the string isn't fully ripped because of the other side. But the string still exists. Half the string exists.
But
Right? Meaning if only one side rips and the other half of the string exists, so it's not Gardumin because the string in its entirety is still there.
from what point?
Doesn't matter. I mean, right? So Gardumin is only when the whole string is ripped. So if half of a string is ripped, so the string isn't puzzled, the string still exists. Right? Chelet's a bit more complicated according to the Rambam, it's only one, but every other string.
Right, but if this string is ripped up here, it's relatively loose, so it could be on either side of that loop, right?
That's what he's saying. No, so he says
It's the one thing that's split in half now.
correct, but it's not puzzle if only one half rips. You need both halves because then the string still exists.
But if it splits like in the middle,
It's still kasher.
but it's not one half ripping or the other half ripping. The string as a whole is ripped in half.
Right. So that's why. No. So he says if only one of 8 is ripped, it's fine. So you know that there's still half a string left.
How can you say it's only 1 out of 8 ripped though?
What do you mean?
If the 2 halves of the string,
So that's why
they're
if it's
detached.
no. So if it's 2 ripped, so then we're worried it's a whole string. But if it's only 1, then we know.
No. If it's one rip, right? If this is the loop up here, this is the one string, and it rips up there. It's one rip. It's one tear, but it's 2 separate pieces that are
No, but if one is still attached to the tzitzit, so you know it's kosher. Right? I mean, if you look at your tzitzit and have 7 strings.
By the knots, you're saying?
Yeah, like you look at your tzitzit and you have 7. You have 7 strings, so you know that there are 4 strings here, 3 full and 1 half. It's still fine. But if you had 6, you'd have to be worried that this is just one whole string is basically falling away. Right? And then all you have left is 3.
I'm so confused where we're talking about ripping. We're talking about ripping all the way up here, right?
Yeah, so
then, in theory, then, all the strings are still going to be attached through these other knots. It's just not looped around the beggar. Is that what we're talking about?
well, that's not going to count. No, it has to be attached to the beggar. Right? We're talking about a string that's still attached to the beggar. Right? Meaning,
So we're talking about here, or we're talking about here?
here. Right. So he says. So let's just continue. He says, Rabbeinu Tam holds you need 2 full strings, which is arba rashim, meaning 4 half strings. Right. You need 2 full strings, which remain at the length of 12. Right, 12 thumbs. And then it's kosher as long as kosher is as long as the other 2 remain kedei aniva. Right? This is the way. Right? This is the assumption that Rabbeinu Tam holds kedei aniva on 2 and shalom on 2. But if 3 ripped, it's possible. So therefore, if 3 are ripped, if lo dibdak the beit asiyat tzitz, you nikar marba rashim shon echad shel kasher, chashin shem kol echad hu michod acher, v'nimtzu she'ein kan el chod echad shalem helkaf misveika pasul. And therefore, if you're not careful to tie it, so you don't know which is which. So, so once 3 is pasul, so it's pasul. So if 2 are ripped, machshirin kedei aniva. Malacha kisvar rishona. Miyahecha the esher took lachos l'svar Rabbeinu Tam. So he says, maker it in he paskins like the rush, right? Like the rush and the rig. But he wants to be machmir like Rabbeinu Tam. What? Shulchan Aruch. But now, and this is, remember I mentioned this yesterday. So Schechter says, oh, well, now that we know that Gardumin base is partially related to how do you conceptualize Tchelet and Lavan. So, if I asked you, how many, according to the Rush, can you prove how many strings you need to be Tchelet and Lavan? No, you can't, right? His sheet is independent of that. It's about the number of strings. According to Rabbeinu Tam, the 2 and 2, why does he conceptualize as 2 and 2?
Because it's 4.
Because he thinks you need 2 blue, 2 white. So what would you say? According to Shulchan Aruch, how many strings does he paskin need to be tchelet? We don't know. From this, we don't know. Right? But according to Rabbeinu Tam, if we paskin like Rabbeinu Tam by Gardumin, then
you need 1 string for the...
So then how many strings do you need to be tchelet in general? 2. Rabbeinu Tam. Right? So why does Rav Shechter paskin like Rabbeinu Tam for tchelet? Because the next line, because the Ramah writes, V'noag en Rabbeinu Tam. The minhag Ashkenaz is to be machbid on Gardumin like Rabbeinu Tam, to only let 2 strings be ripped. Right? Which means that, why would you hold that only 2 strings can be ripped? Because that's reflective of what position?
That it's also about the string.
That Tchelet is 2 strings. And therefore, Schechter argues, and you look at the Nosei Kelim assume that the minhag Ashkenaz is not just l'chumra, that we actually pass on Rabbeinu. This is how Schechter understands it. Again, you could quibble, and you could say maybe we're only being machmer like Rabbeinu Tam, but really we pass like the Rush, right? Or maybe you could conceptually split them, or something like that, right? But Schechter argues that since the Ramah writes that we pass in by Gardumin like Rabbeinu Tam, and Rabbeinu Tam's sheet of Gardumin is based on the notion that Tchelet is 2 and 2. So therefore he argues that's why he paskins that how many Tchelet strings you need? 2, which is 4, right? I mean 2 and 2.
2 full
2 full strings of Tchelet, right? Because Rabbeinu Tam's particular conception of Gardumin is based on
what a string where half is blue, half is red?
No, where the whole thing is right. The whole tzitzit is half blue, half white. Correct, right? The apostle, he says, obviously, if you know that you've split them half and half, and you cut 3 strings, then it's vaday pasul. Why is it vaday pasul?
Because
Rabbeinu Tam, correct, because Rabbeinu Tam says that you need 2 full strings, and if you split them half and half, then you know that if 3 are ripped, then
there are 3 different.
Then there are 3 different strings to rip, which means there aren't 2 shalim. Da'az vaday nifsku shlosh chutin, and nifsku shalim mami pasul shema shlosh chutin. Hey. And this was the other halacha we saw in the Gemara, that when we say kedei aniva, what do we mean? We don't mean that you actually have to be able to tie it. What do we mean?
That theoretically you could.
Theoretically tied if it was thin. Kosher, and the Rama writes. So what's the thickness? The Rama assumes that we judge it by a mid-sized thickness. Right? That's like we imagine that the string is mid-sized. Would you be able to make the knots, the slip knot, with a mid-sized string? Now I made this point again, but I want to reiterate it for the millionth time. Again, the fact that this is already straight from the Gemara, but the fact that we need kedei aniva in theory, not in practice, so what does that prove?
That we still have a string.
So remember, right, what is this about? So again, we talked about this is just classic lumdish terminology, right? Where, again, I don't usually do it, but let's do classic lumdas here, right? So classic lumdish terminology. When the Gemara's real question is, when it says kedei aniva, is it a siman or is it a siba? Causation, correlation. Meaning, is kedei aniva telling you that what makes it kosher is the ability to tie, or is the fact that it's long enough to make a slip knot indicative of the fact that it's significant enough? And what does the Gemara say in no uncertain terms?
Yes.
It's a siba. You don't actually have to tie it. What do you need? That you could tie it, and therefore if it's thick, what does the Gemara say? Kol shekain it's kosher. Why? Because the real rule is not kedei aniva. Kedei aniva is a siman for minkar mitzvatayu. Is it still recognizable as a mitzvah? Right? Which tells you that this is not a siman, it's a siba. Sorry, it's not a siba, it's a siman. It's kedei aniva is not the cause of it being kosher. That's indicative of the fact that when I look at this tzitzit, the string is still chashuv, it's still something significant left. And therefore, that's why we paskin that you don't actually need to be able to tie a knot, you just need to be able to knot had it been thin. Or according to the Rama, middle.
But if it's thin and if they can't make the knot,
so then it's pasul because it's not significant. But if it's thick and had it been thin, you could tie it. But now, and again, what's the lumdus? Right? The Gemara says because minkar mitzvatayu. Right? I look at it. It's not really about kedei aniva. Kedei aniva is the indication that I look at the tzitzis and the string is still there. So if it's thick, right? Again, logically, this shouldn't be hard to process. What's it saying? Right? It's like if I look at my shirt and you have like these little strings that it starts to fray. It's like a little string comes out, and this is inside the pocket, right? Like this, right? So it's not significant, b'chlal, right? If I had a thin string, which was like on my sweatshirt, that was the drawstring to pull it closed, right? Even if it was thin, it would still be significant as long as it's effective, right? If I had not a thin string, but if I was talking about like a cord, right? Even there's a tiny little bit of a cord left, right? You look at it and you say,
it's a cord because it's still
right. It's not ripped because you can get your hand around it even if it's an inch because it's thick, right? That's what he's saying. He's saying if it's thin and short, right, it's already not significant. If it's thick,
and it has the potential that
it's thick and short, but it's the length that if it was thin it could tie, so that's significant. And you look at it and you say the string is still there, right? Maybe I can't tie it, but that's because it's so thick that it needs an extra length. But that's fine because it's nicker. But that's how we paskin, right? Just again, the lumdus is pretty clear already in the Gemara. There's not much the Ramah is adding except the Shulchan Aruch is adding, except that we paskin that way, right? The Ramah says the shear is shir beinoni, right? Is that we imagine it to be a middle length, a middle thickness. Okay, that is the end of Gardumin, which I know is complicated, right? Which 5 shirim on Gardumin, not really. I mean, 2 on why does the category of Gardumin apply to tzitzis and not to tefillin, and then yesterday was a half shir because of shirkali, so 2.5 shirim, right, on exactly how it plays out by tzitzis. But again, I think that Gardumin is a very important sugya because it got to a lot of the cores we've been talking about, right? How much is tzitzis defined as string? How much is it tchelet plus lavan? And things like that. So tomorrow, I hope in one day we can really do Kesher Elyon. I guess we should just wait, right? At this point, I'm looking at you guys and I'm saying I don't think we should start this now, which makes sense. So let me just outline what we're going to do. So as I said, one of the relevant things in this sugya that we sort of slipped over was the question of how exactly do we find this definitional knot, which the Kesher Elyon. And we'll see that the majority of Rishonim will think that it is the kesher that attaches it to the baguette. The Rashi's not going to think that. The questions you have to deal with are both the literary questions, which is how do you understand the word Elyon in each way, right? You just need to understand, like how would you define the word Elyon such that it means top versus bottom, right? How do you get to that, right? Why would you say one? Why would you say the other? The second is conceptually, what is the difference? Right? Meaning, what is the logic of saying that the biblical kesher, the biblical knot that you need to have is the one that attaches it to the baguette, or as opposed to holding that it's the one at the end of the chuliot. When you finish those mekorot, I want you to really read at least till the end of the Gemara, as much as you can to the end of the daf. Right, where the Gemara is going to get into some of the details of how do you tie the chuliot. I don't think we're going to get so much into all the lamdos about it. We'll get into some of it. I want to make a few points on this amud. But like I said, fundamentally, I think we've covered a lot of the conceptual issues. And Ray Wasserman is going to give a practical tying thing. So once we've seen what all this is, right, he's going to show you what this actually looks like in practice, with tchelet and without tchelet, right? Meaning the way we tie, and this you'll see in Rashi and Tosfos. I want you to basically look through the Rashis and Tosfos here. Is that it's different, right? I mean, when you only have lavan. So, right, we have the minhag of the 5 knots with the 5 knots, the chulei. But the Rambam shita of chuliot, at least with tchelet, is completely different, right? There's almost no knots at all, right? It's just those wraps.
Or I have my spectator, I'm like looking.
Okay, so we'll try to do that. I hope we get through Kesher Elyon in 1, maybe 2 days. Within 2 days, I want to be basically at Meridian at the bottom of Lamed Testament Aleph. Right, 3 lines from the bottom. Actually, even more than that, up to Lamed Testament Beis until Bosileyu Mitocho. I want to really be done with that by the end of the week. And then the next big sugya is Kilayim B'tzitzis on Lamed Testament Beis. We have to do the question of both kilayim b'tzitzis and what materials you're allowed to use for tzitzis. Right, those are the 2 big sugyas, lamed tes, lamed beis to men. Right, is what type of can you use cotton? Can it only be wool and linen? Right, this is it's machlokas in the Gemara. It's machlokas lahalacha. We should deal with that. What did you guys do with Rice Sklar? You did Ksus Laila, right? Whether Ksus Laila means, or that's what he did with you, right? Isn't that what he did with you? The question of whether it means the clothes that you would wear at night or at night versus day? No, what did he do with you? That's not what he did?
I feel like we did that at
That's
some
not what
point
he did
with
with you?
someone or somewhere.
I thought that's what he did with you.
No, that's something.
Okay, I wasn't going to do it because he said that's what he did already. Right, Wasserman did Lishma with you, right? That's why I didn't do Lishma. Did he do that?
Yeah.
Okay, if he didn't do that, we'll do it again. That's like one of the most basic sugyas, but he just said he did it with you. Fine. We have to do the number of tzitzis, right? The number of strings, because we've been assuming like the 4, but that's machlokas b'sel b'shamai, right? 3 and 3, which is 6, or 4, which is 8. We'll have to do that. There's a few other sugyas that I want to do. We can do the loeg l'rosh sugya if you want, which is right wearing tzitzis in a cemetery and stuff like that. It's over here.
We did do kashrut laila, right?
Well,
We did do kashrut laila.
that's what I thought you did.
Yeah,
If you want to do it again, we can do it again. I don't care.
Yeah.
Are you guys okay?